And it's Friday, TGIF, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're in the Eastern time zone, and no matter which time zone you're in right now, I hope you're having a great day. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. The big weekend's coming up. Things going to be happening. Hopefully, you'll have a fun weekend coming up. And of course, we're all looking forward to that as well. So, once again, I'm Chris Pardo, and thank you for listening. Coming to you live, the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as some of the major podcast platforms as well. Coming across on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify. We're on Sprecher. We're all over the place. No problem getting a hold of us if you want. We're right there all the time. So anyway, thanks for listening. We're here every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, we are here at 11 a.m. So that's what's going on there. So some of the news today coming out, because yesterday was a big day in the sports betting world. First, we saw Arizona. We talked about this the other day, but now it's official. They've become the 27th state to legalize sports betting. Now, more than half of the states in America, 54% to be exact, have legalized betting since that Supreme Court overturned PASPA back in 2018. Yesterday, we also saw the NFL ink its first ever sports betting partnerships with 3 U.S. sports books, linked them up with Caesars, DraftKings, and Fanduel. Because just a few short years ago, the NFL remained staunchly opposed, if you remember that, to legalized betting. We would have had legalized betting a long time ago if it wasn't for the power of the NFL and all their money that they give to senators and the congressmen to keep them without having any betting, because they were always afraid that if betting was allowed on NFL games, it would affect the outcome. Men would be, tempted for a bribe or whatever to throw a game, throw some points, not play as well or whatever, not realizing these guys are making $20-30 million a year. These guys are not going to try to blow all that over a $1 or $2 million deal that they'll get from some organized crime or whatever type of institution that does that kind of stuff. So anyway, they finally capitulated. They gave in. They gave their blessing. The Supreme Court ruled on it. The legislation came out of New Jersey to be actually, they were the first ones that actually put the lawsuit in to try to get it changed. And of course, they did come in the favor of sports betting. And of course, now that it's in there, NFL's involved in every single aspect of it that you could possibly imagine. So anyway, it's here. It's legalized. You got 27 states now that have it. So, this speaks to a real massive shift we've seen from the pro leagues over the past 2 years. They are all now fully embracing legalized betting. Basketball, NBA was really one of the first ones. Adam Silver came out real early, a couple of years prior to the actual ruling, and spoke out in favor of betting, legalized betting. So now everybody's getting involved in it. They see the profit. It comes down to the money. They all see the profit of it. The NFL was fighting it for many years, not realizing, but they knew it. But there were bookmakers. There were illegal gambling situations. You had offshore accounts that became available to people if they wanted to bet legally, but out of the country. So, it all turns out kind of been working out pretty good so far. Generates a lot of revenue. And of course, the fans get more involved in it. And lastly, we also saw the news yesterday that Fanduel will open up a sports book at the Phoenix Suns Arena, of all places, right in the arena itself. The first ever sports book in the city of Phoenix. Now, new sports book is set to open for the 2021 2021-22 NBA season. Now, it'll remain open all year long for bettors to bet games, place wagers, and not just during the Suns games. So you can bet on anything you want while you're watching. If you happen to go to the game to watch the Suns play, you'll be able to make wagers on other games as well going on. So that's the story. It's Friday now, though. We have a loaded betting slate set up for you today. You got 15 Major League Baseball games, 11 NBA games. We got 5 NHL games on tap as well. So those are the things we're going to be talking about today. Of course, we're going to take our first break, and when we get done with that first break, when we come back, we're going to take a look and see what happened yesterday as far as sports results are. We try to keep you up to date as to how the favorites are doing, how the underdogs are doing, how the over-under is doing. So this kind of gives you an idea, a capsule event of what's going on as far as betting is concerned. And also today we're going to talk about baseball. We're going back to talk about a couple of games today on tap. We're going to see where the line movement is going, and course, by determining that, we're going to determine in which direction the pros are going as well. We have 3 games on tap. At 7 o'clock, you got the Cardinals against the Phillies. At 8 o'clock, you got the Blue Jays against Kansas City. And the late game at 10:10 Eastern Time, the Houston Astros going out to Seattle to play the Seattle Mariners. So we're going to cover those. We're also going to talk about the NBA. We'll give you the latest power rankings that have come out according to VSIN. That's the Vegas Sports Information Network out of Las Vegas. We're going to give you information on that as well, kind of bring you up to date. And of course, any little thing that happens to come in along the way. So let's take that first break. And if you've listened to the show before, just going to remind you once again, we take 3 breaks in the show. Each one is of about a 1-minute duration. Maybe one time I think we go about like a minute and a half or something like that. But generally speaking, it's now pretty low. So let's get that first break out of the way. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at what happened yesterday in the world of sports as far as gambling is concerned. So here's the story. We'll be back in the zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, podcasting on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music Podcast, iHeartRadio, most of the major podcast platforms. You can find the sports wagering zone. So thank you very much for listening. It's Friday. It's a TGIF day, weekend coming up. So let's see what happened yesterday in the world of sports. In Major League Baseball, the favorites had a good day yesterday. They went 6-4 with the Mariners and the Orioles game actually closing as a pick'em. Game 1, that was the game 1 of the doubleheader that they played. The favorites retook the lead 90-88 on the season. There were also 7 pickups in that group as well. The upsets were by the Diamondbacks. There was one by the Rangers, the Indians, and the Mariners in Game 2 was an upset and a big win for the underdogs. The overs went 7-4, but the unders still lead 93-88. That's about 51.5% at that. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the favorites had a great day yesterday. 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. The Bucks a 4.5-point favorite. The Warriors a 5.5-point favorite, and the Celtics a 7.5-point favorite. They all covered, with the Kings being a 12.5-point underdog against the Suns, the only underdog to cover in yesterday's games. The favorites still lead. They're at 409 to 396, which is almost at 51% on the season so far. The overs and unders, well, they split yesterday, 2-2. The overs still lead by 51%, 416 to 404. Meanwhile, the National Hockey League, the favorites there, they did very well too. The dogs were kind of kept quiet yesterday in the world of sports. The favorites went 5-4, but there were upsets by the Jets, the Flyers, the Sabres, and the Red Wings. Now, the unders, they went 5-2-2 with a push on the Islanders-Bruins game, which was at 5, and the Blues Jackets and Stars game, that was at 5. The unders increased their lead to 51.3%. The first period unders went 5-4, and they now lead at almost 52% at 342 to 319. Now, yesterday we had no baseball picks in our little system that we've been talking about, where we actually follow on the coattails of the pros and which way they're going, which way they're betting. We had no baseball choices yesterday, so we gave you a couple of hockey picks. One of them was with the Hurricanes, and the other game was with the Lightning. In both situations, the pros, we did have winners in both games. So far for the season, as far as hockey is concerned, with this system that we've been kind of going over with, we've been doing it for a while. We use the same system, the same method, or whatever you want to call it. When we were doing NFL games, we used it for the college basketball season. We used it for the playoffs, for the March Madness situation as well. So far this season, as far as hockey was concerned, we had 63 plays, 63 plays, 39 wins, 24 losses. That's almost 62%. It's actually 61.9%, which is pretty close to 62. So it's doing pretty good as well. So it's doing pretty good. Anyway, that was what happened last night. Now let's take a look at what's going to be going on today, especially in Major League Baseball. We've got a few games to look at, give you a little close-up look, let you know which way the line movement is going, and also in which direction the pros are laying their money as well. So to start with, at 7:05 Eastern Time, the St. Louis Cardinals at 6-6. That's at 500, playing against the Philadelphia Phillies, and they're 6-6 as well. They're at the 500 mark as well. Now, both of these teams, they've kind of struggled lately, okay? The Cardinals have been 1-4 in their last 5 games. The Phillies have been 1-5 in their last 6 games. So in tonight's series opener, it's the first game of the series, the Cardinals sent Carlos Martinez. He is 0-2 so far this year with a 6.3 ERA. While the Phillies, they come back with Zach Eflin. He has no record so far this season with a 3.46 ERA. Now, looking at the line, it opened with the Philadelphia Phillies listed as a modest minus 120 as a home favorite on the money line. The pro money has gone and laid the chalk, which has driven that number up from 120 to 135, a 15-cent move. Now, teams with steam of 10 cents or more in their favor are at 53.2% this season. This team comes under that particular category. We've also seen some under money coming in as well. The total drop that was started out at 9, now down to 8.5. Now, keep this in mind. When the total is 8.5 or higher, the under is at 56% this season. The weather in this situation calls for temperatures in the low 50s with the wind blowing in from left field at 10 miles per hour. Now, both these teams have been roughly equal at the plate. Cardinals are hitting at 228, Phillies hitting at 229. The difference may come with the pitcher's mound. Philadelphia's team ERA is 4.09, which ranks them number 13 in Major League Baseball. The Cardinals' team ERA is 5.09, one total point full, third worst in baseball. So the Phillies are 5-1 at home this season, playing at home now against the St. Louis Cardinals. The pros in this situation are on Philadelphia, the Phillies, to beat the Cardinals in this game. Meanwhile, at 8:10 p.m., you have the Toronto Blue Jays, who are 6-7, going down to Kansas City, who is 7-4. Now, the Royals beat the Jays 7-5 last night's opener. Okay, they cashed in as a -118 home favorite. But in tonight's rematch, the Jays are going to be pitching lefty Steven Matz, who's 2-0 so far this season, with a 1.46 ERA. And the Royals are going to start another left-hander, Mike Minor, who's 1-0 so far this season, 4.50 ERA. Now, looking at the line in this game, it opened with Toronto, listed as a kind of modest -135 road favorite, and the Royals are a +125 home dog. Now, look at where the pros are going. They came in on the Royals, taking the plus money, forcing those odds makers to drop Kansas City from +135 down to +110. That's a big drop. They must have dumped quite a bit of money to make that kind of a jump. The Royals have value in this dog because they're coming off a win, which is a 13% return on investment so far this season. They're also a dog with a line move that's in their favor. That's a 10% return on investment for those teams. And a sweet spot dog, that's a +40 or less. They're at 24% return on investment so far this year. Now, there also seems to be some liability on a higher scoring game as the total is 8.5, with the over being juiced up to 115, up to as high as 120 at some places, depending on where you kind of do your business. We've seen it at 115. We've seen it at 120. The Royals are 5-2 at home this season. The Jays, they're 3-4 on the road. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Royals, getting the plus money in this particular situation. So let's take our second break, and when we do come back, we'll talk about that 10 o'clock game, the late game, the Houston Astros against the Seattle Mariners. So that's the game we'll talk about right after we come back from our break as we speak. So just a reminder, like I said, we take 3 breaks. This is our second break. We usually take one break every about it takes about a minute and a half to get rid of. So just keeping that in mind, just so you'll know. We'll be back into the sports wagering zone. We'll take a quick look at that third game as well. And then we'll also talk about the NBA and their power rankings, the latest ones to come out lately. So we'll be back into the zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you for listening. We're coming to you live right here in Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. So we looked at two games so far today. It's coming up for tonight. The Cardinals against the Phillies. In that particular game, the pros are on the Phillies. The second game with the Toronto Blue Jays against the Kansas City Royals. And in this particular game, the pros are on the underdog, the Kansas City Royals. Meanwhile, at 10 o'clock, you got the Houston Astros, 6-6, going to Seattle to play the Mariners at 8-5. Now, these are American League Western rivals, and if you look at them, you'll see they're going in opposite directions. The Astros have lost 5 straight games, while the Mariners have won 2 straight. But in tonight's series opener, the Astros come out with Jose Urquidy. He's 0-1 so far this season with a 5.23 ERA. Meanwhile, the Mariners, they come back with their lefty, Jose Kikuchi. He has no record so far this year. He's at 3.75 for an ERA. So looking at the line, it opened with Houston listed as a short -120 road favorite. Now, we've seen this line come down to -110. What this means is that the pro money is grabbing Seattle as a home dog, +110 down to +100. Seattle matches several of the profitable betting systems that are available this season, including that dog with a line move in their favor. With those type of situations, it's a 10% return on investment. Now, a dog off of a win is at a 13% return, and a divisional dog is a 9% return. The big elephant in the room, and there's always one around, the Astros will be missing several key players because of what else? The COVID protocols, including Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Jordan Alvarez, and Martin Maldonado. So you have to keep an eye on that, and that's one thing you have to look out for. More than likely, that is why the Houston line has been dropping the way it has, in addition to the fact that the pros, maybe because of that, are now on the Seattle Mariners. The total in this game is at 8. Both teams have been very profitable to the over so far this season. The Astros are 8-4. The Mariners are 8-5. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Seattle Mariners. And just to give you an idea as to how well this little system has been operating so far this season, of course, we had no selections yesterday. So what we have is we had 36 plays altogether, 36. He had 19 winners, he had 17 losers, and it's a 52.7%. That's the percentage of winnings as far as baseball is concerned with this little very simple method of selection. The pros are doing all the work for you. All you have to do is figure out who it is that they're betting with, and you go in that direction, and that's what we've been doing for the past couple of years. Primarily, that's the basis of the system. It's very simple, and you don't have to use it entirely or use it all the time. Let's say you have a system that you're very happy with, but you know what? Sometimes you come across a game like this game with Houston and Seattle. Could go either way. It's almost like a pick 'em game. So maybe you looked at the game earlier in the day and you see, yeah, I like Houston in this game. And then you start looking a little closer. You find out, some of the players won't be playing. So you start thinking differently. You think, gee, now Seattle's starting to look good to me. Okay. So now you're not sure. You're ready to flip that coin to see which team you're going to take. So, by listening to who the pros are going on, you may say, hey, if they like Seattle, I'm kind of toss and turn between either one. I think I'll get on Seattle as well. Now, that's one way to kind of look at it, okay? Otherwise, remember, you want to keep the emotion out of gambling. Anytime you're using emotion in gambling, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. There's no doubt about it. This system is strictly analytical, has nothing to do. It's all with numbers, has nothing to do with emotion. These are the numbers. This is the team we play. Has nothing to do with whether you like them, you don't like them, whatever's happening with them. You maybe hated them all these years, or maybe loved them all these years. Whatever it is, this is very simple. It's just numbers. No emotion is involved in making these selections. So that's the story with baseball and for tonight. Once again, the three games we looked at were the Cardinals and the Phillies. In that particular game, the pros are on the Phillies. Toronto Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals. We're on Kansas City on that one. That's the underdog. And Houston against Seattle. We're on the underdog here with the Seattle Mariners. So that's the story as far as baseball is concerned for tonight. So that's it. Let's take our final break. And when we do come back, we're going to take a look at the latest rankings in the NBA, the team rankings so far put out by VSIN, the Vegas Sports Information Network out of Las Vegas. That's a very good organization out there. They do a lot of work, and this is their ratings. Many different groups have ratings. The best way to do it, you should come up with your own rankings, okay? But there's a lot of work involved. You know, we all have jobs, we have things to take care of and families, not enough time to really dig into coming up with rankings of all the teams, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, and baseball makes it even harder because you got many more teams involved. Anyway, that's the story. Let's take that final break. And just a reminder, we'll be back into the zone in about 60 seconds. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Welcome to the show. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're listening to us on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, or perhaps you're on one of the podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music Podcasts, iHeartRadio, we're on all these various platforms that you can listen to the show on live or later on in the day if you wish. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the power rankings, the latest power rankings to come out for the NBA. And of course, this is, again, courtesy of VSIN, the Vegas Sports Information Network. That's Brent Musburger's outfit out there. Left the sports broadcasting field to open up his own business a couple of years ago, and they happen to be doing very, very well. Now, we're in the home stretch now with the NBA. The season has about 4 weeks left, and each game holds more weight in where these teams will be seated, and they're shaking out in both conferences because this week we have a new member of the top 5, and the Knicks make a 3-spot jump as well. So here's a look at the power rankings for this week. In number 1, You have the Phoenix Suns. They were number one last week. They're number one this week, okay? They're 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the spread over the past week. Now, Phoenix is doing everything that it can to grab the highest seed possible out there in that Western Conference. They took a big step toward that goal by beating the Jazz the other day. The Suns were caught in a bad spot the next night against the Clippers, but they still managed to post a plus 9.4 net rating over their last 5 games. They hold a 2-game lead in the Pacific Division, got 18 games left, but they're still plus 100 to win it at BetMGM, plus 100 on the money line to win the Western Conference at BetMGM. At number 2, you have the Brooklyn Nets. This past week, they were 2-1 straight up and 2-1 against the spread as well. The sky was falling after they lost to the Lakers on Saturday. But then the Nets showed their ability in blowout wins over the Pelicans and, of course, over the Timberwolves as well. Kevin Durant is back, but James Harden, he's still kind of on the sideline, and Kyrie Irving played only 51 minutes all last week. The Nets allowed just 107 points per 100 possessions in their last 3 games that they played. Is that something to watch, or is that kind of an anomaly, courtesy of what we would call a softer schedule that they're coming upon now? In the number 3 spot, you got the Utah Jazz. They were number 3 last week as well. They recapped a 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against the spread. Donovan Mitchell averaged 40.5 points on a 45.5% shooting in the first 3 games of the week. He had a highlight moment when he forced overtime against the Suns on April the 7th. Utah still posted the 3rd best net rating in the league at plus 7.2, despite they lost 2 games as well. Meanwhile, the number 4 spot, the Philadelphia 76ers. They were number 4 last time as well. Last week, they were 3-1 straight up, 3-1 against the spread, but they had a really odd blunder against the Pelicans on Friday. They looked dominant in 3 wins for the past week, except against the Pelicans. Now, the 76ers led the league in defensive efficiency for the week, and they also allowed just 97 points per 100 possession. Okay, if that combination of offense and defense finds its way into the postseason, this team could be a deadly team, and it's one team you might be able to look at and watch real closely. Meanwhile, at number 5, the Los Angeles Clippers moved up from number 8 last week. They were 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. What a week for the Clippers. They led the league in offensive efficiency by a big margin, thanks to their league-leading 47.6% three-point shooting percentage. Okay, they did get some bad news, though. Patrick Beverley will be out for about 4 weeks with a broken hand. Serge Ibaka is still out, and Paul George will be dealing with his toe injury probably for the whole season. The whole question is, will these injuries derail another seemingly promising campaign, another great season for the Los Angeles Clippers? Meanwhile, at number 6, we have the Denver Nuggets. They were number 6 last week. At number 7, the Milwaukee Bucks moved down from number 5. At number 8, Miami moved up to number 8 from number 9. The Los Angeles Lakers moved up from 10 to 9, and the Boston Celtics moved from 11 to 10. And meanwhile, the New York Knicks moved from 14 to 11. So that's the story as far as the rankings go for the top 10, 11 teams in the NBA. So once again, I want to thank VSIN for that information, and hopefully it'll be of some value to you if you do like to bet NBA games. I know we don't spend too much time talking about the NBA, but there's some people out there do like to bet on them. You got about couple more weeks left to go. Soon it'll be over into the playoffs. Then we'll get totally involved in it, kind of give you all kinds of thoughts and ideas on some betting ideas, as well as following and monitoring to see just how well the various pros are betting on these particular games. So that's the story as far as that's concerned. So getting back to tonight, just before we say goodbye, 3 games we looked at in baseball for tonight. The St. Louis Cardinals against the Phillies. The pros are on the Philadelphia Phillies. The Toronto Blue Jays against the Kansas City Royals. The pros are on the Kansas City Royals. And at Houston against Seattle, the Seattle is the pick in this particular game as well. Those 3 games are on tap. We took a closer look at them, kind of give you an idea as to what the pros think of them and in which direction they're going, along with the line movement as well. So that's the story for the week. The week comes to an end. We're coming to the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And just a reminder, the Sports Wagering Zone comes in on 11 a.m. live from Charlotte, North Carolina on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday. Monday through Friday, we're here at 4 p.m. So that's the story for today. If you're going to be betting today, I wish you the best of luck. And if you're not, just kind of sit back, relax, get ready. The NBA final, the playoffs will be coming up soon. You might want to start thinking about that. And, of course, start thinking about the draft. We're going to start talking about that coming up real soon as well and see what some of the odds are on some of the prop bets that are coming up as well. So, once again, I want to thank you for listening. And like I said, if you're having a great day, it's Friday, going out and have some fun tonight maybe. I hope you have a good time. If you're going to be betting, I hope you have a profitable night as well. So until tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Goodbye, everybody.